Let's move on to the Houston Texans. Pat, turning this back over to you. Again, not a quiet offseason for the Houston Texans. We know they have a quarterback in place. We know they have playmakers around them. So, Pat, what's the one burning question here for the Texans?
Yeah, not a quiet offseason. We know Adam Gase, we talked about his love of power struggles, but Bill O'Brien kind of quietly is the number one power struggler in the NFL. And to me, the number one question for the Texans is, can Will Fuller regain his pre-injury form? Because they're just a different offense with Deshaun Watson when Will Fuller's healthy. And we're talking about a guy, though, who was known for soft tissue injuries, is now returning from like a devastating orthopedic injury. And so Will Fuller has a truly special trait. One of the fastest players in the NFL, one of the fastest players in all of modern football.
4.32 40 at
this entire century, and he plays that fast. He just doesn't have like a good 40. He plays that fast. But so for that, if you're coming back and you lose even 5% of your speed, that could be an issue. And so if he's not all the way 100%, he just might not be the same player. He might not be the player the Texans need. And to me, that's going to be Will Fuller's form is like the defining question for the Texans offense this season.
He has some ridiculous touchdown rate while playing with Deshaun Watson, right?
I have it written down. 11 games together, 14 touchdowns.
Oh. It's wild.
That's very wild.
It's wild. And it's a team that has understood that, well...
About a 1,200-yard pace, too.
And they just haven't been healthy together. And, Pat, I believe we just talked about this on the podcast. You can put, parameters on statistics and production in the NFL, but 11 games together is nothing. That's not a sample size. But we've already seen it be outstanding. And I guess, Nick, the biggest thing that the Texans have done this offseason, and they've done a lot, is at least try to improve the offensive line. The only question is if it's going to work, and I don't think it's an answerable question right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing worse than Julian Davenport, so all you can do is go up from there at left tackle. So what they draft, Titus Howard, yeah.
Alabama.
Right now it looks like Matt Khalil's going to play left tackle, which is
that might be worse than Julian Davenport.
Yeah.
Honestly, that might be worse. But I mean, they're putting a lot of faith in Kiki QT inside. Will Fuller, they're obviously expecting him to rebound. They didn't do anything at receiver really. They still DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller, Kiki QT. That's going to be the trio right there. So, I like this offense. Deshaun Watson's proved he can escape pressure. Yeah, he can escape pressure, all the pressure that comes on him, even if it's just awful protection. So
and invites it too.
Yeah.
I think that's his style a little bit.
Yeah.
And we talked about it with the Steelers that not many teams can sustain 2,000-yard receivers. I think if the Texans stay healthy, they're definitely one of those teams that can do that.
They don't have anything. I mean, they have players at tight end, but it's all players at a grab bag of sorts. No standout tight end here. So the offense is going through the receivers.
Nick Minzio, back at you. The Indianapolis Colts, maybe the team that took the biggest step forward in 2018. What's it look like for them in 2019?
Loving it. I mean, the offensive line went from one of the worst in the sport to maybe the best. Quentin Nelson proved to be a huge difference maker at the guard spot. Anthony Costanzo stayed healthy at left tackle. Had probably his best season yet.
Braden Smith at right tackle, who played guard during his career at Auburn.
Andrew Luck took the fewest sacks of his career probably last year. I mean, I didn't look it up, and I assume he did. What we're going to see, or we're going to ask here is Andrew Luck. He was second in pass attempts last year. Can he overtake Patrick Mahomes, be the overall QB1 this year?
Wow.
After being QB5 last year. I mean, fastest paced offense in the league last year. I mean, I think he can do it.
It's trying to put myself where I was a year ago, right? This is a team that didn't add that much in free agency, right? It was still T.Y. Hilton, and you add at the time Eric Ebron, okay. You add Ryan Grant after his failed physical with Baltimore, I believe?
Yeah.
Now, this is a team that, Eric Ebron, definitely. Jack Doyle, yeah. T.Y. Hilton, always there. Then you add on Devin Funchess, you add on Paris Campbell, and it's a complete shift in how excited we are for the offensive weapons around Andrew Luck.
Well, yeah, and I think that makes for some very complicated fantasy decisions coming up in the next month. I think we have a pretty good idea of what we're getting in T.Y. Hilton, but Eric Ebron broke out for 13 touchdowns last year. Most of it was without Jack Doyle, who we know, obviously he is not very durable, but when he's been on the field, he's shown good chemistry as sort of a safety valve in the middle of the field for Luck. So I think all of it's good for Luck because he has a ton of weapons. But in terms of figuring out who we want to draft after T.Y. Hilton, I'm not so sure.
The Colts, it's a very interesting question. To me, you can't really answer the question because you don't know Tyreek Hill's status, which is kind of the defining variable in the Andrew Luck or Patrick Mahomes, but I do think the Colts still have room to improve in the efficiency department. Andrew Luck's arm strength, was still kind of shaky the first 3 or 4 games last year before he really got in rhythm. They've improved the weapons, like you said. They went from having the worst offensive line to one of the best. Their sack percentage was by far, it was with Jacoby Brissett, was by far the worst in the league in 2017. It was by far the best in the league in 2018. Andrew Luck, learning this new offense last year, his last full season was 2016. He was one of the slowest in the league to get rid of the ball, even behind a terrible offensive line. Last year he was one of the fastest, and just, and this was all something he was kind of doing on the fly. So I think they still have room to grow in the efficiency department, which means room to grow in fantasy.
And what I love about this for fantasy purposes is you get to play 9 games in a dome next year. 8 at home and then 1 in Houston at the very minimum. So I don't know what the rest of their schedule looks like. Maybe more dome games are on there, but guaranteed at least 9. So that's a fantasy friendly environment. So it's conducive to putting up numbers.
Jesse, to you with Tennessee Titans. I watched 16 games of the Tennessee Titans last year, and I did not know who the Tennessee Titans were. Now we don't even get a second year of the same offensive coordinator in Matt LaFleur. Again, not good on your resume to not have an identity in offense. But at least they ended the season, Jesse, with Derrick Henry running over defenses. But to me, Marcus Mariota has just always been a question mark since his rookie season.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what my burning question is going to be. Marcus Mariota, I mean, the stakes have never been higher for him. He is in his team option 5th year.
Yeah. So,
big payday coming if he can have a good season. But interesting that both he and Jameis Winston were, number 1 and 2 picks and didn't get those big paydays that went to Carson Wentz and other people. I believe Mariota only had 11 touchdowns last year, was really conservative. He hasn't proven that he can stay healthy. They have, some decent wide receivers with Corey Davis, and they just drafted A.J. Brown. So I think the weapons are there. It's just kind of put up or shut up time for him, honestly.
It's like, who's this? Like, when they hired this Arthur Smith, I'm like, is this guy a Madden-created coach? I'm like,
he wasn't in our Rotoworld database.
He's literally a FedEx heir. So he's like, hey, he's in this for the love of the game because he's very wealthy.
Interesting.
Yeah, so you can't question his intentions, but he's a very unknown.
But I do believe that the Titans' identity that they showed us last year, and who knows, it could drastically change in the preseason. Maybe we find out that. It's give Derrick Henry a lot of carries and have positive or neutral game script. Sure, that's great on paper, but it's not going to work. And at some point, Marcus Mariota has to elevate his game. Pat, is he ever going to do that outside of against the Eagles, he did it last year, but I can't point to another time that he did it.
Yeah, he does it 2 or 3 times a year. He's basically the new Ryan Tannehill, which now he is backed up by Ryan Tannehill, so maybe not a great sign for his future. The Titans are obviously losing belief. Like you said, he didn't get the long-term contract extension you usually get by now if you're a first-round quarterback. The Titans, if they had even vaguely decent backup quarterback, would have made the playoffs last year, but they had Blaine Gabbert. So the fact that they urgently addressed backup quarterback, another sign that they are losing belief in Marcus Mariota. And they did improve his weapons, but this is when you think of a make or break season, that's what Marcus Mariota's 2019
I think one good thing for him is a healthy Delaney Walker too.
Yeah.
Who is
Delaney Walker's 37, 38.
But he's been insanely consistent and productive when healthy, and he only played 39 snaps last year for the broken ankle.
We have a fairly large sample size of Marcus Mariota with Delaney Walker, and it's not like you're right. It's important that he's coming back, but yeah.
I'll close out this group with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Talk about bad game plans. Jacksonville, we know that in 2017, I guess the question is, was that their peak, right? Because in 2017, we know that they went far in the playoffs, and it was based on just historic caliber defense and not having Blake Bortles completely implode the offensive game plan in the passing game. Okay, you want to run the ball a lot in 2018 and rely on year-to-year consistent historic defense? That's not a sustainable winning model in the NFL. So now, again, Blake Bortles is gone. He's with the Rams out west. And now you bring in Nick Foles. I do wonder how much Nick Foles can help this offense. You talked about is the barometer just to be better than someone else earlier. Okay, is the barometer for Nick Foles just to be a little bit better than Blake Bortles? He can be that, but he's also coming from basically a perfect situation in Philadelphia with a great offensive line, good weapons, and a tremendous play caller. Is he going to get any of that here with the Jacksonville Jaguars?
I mean, hopefully they have a good running game. That's what they're still committed to. They should have improved play calling. Mike Zimmer won't ride for John DeFilippo, but a lot of other people do. He's a well-regarded offensive coordinator. I think you kind of made it. I think, honestly, the Jaguars were thinking small. They just need incremental improvement over Blake Bortles. Yeah. Last year, the Jags, like you said, did the ultimate double down. They basically made nothing on offense to kind of take that situation out of the mud, and they betted on repeating an historic defensive performance, which we've seen time and again through NFL history does not happen. Which spoiler alert for the Chicago Bears this year, but there is reason for hope here. The defense, the talent is still great. Nick Foles, it's not by a lot, but he is clearly better than Blake Bortles, and I think they're making a small bet that they just need a little bit of improvement to kind of get them back on the up and up.
I think they need injury luck to just take a better turn this year. I mean, Leonard Fournette missed a bunch of games last year, whether that was injury or getting just suspended by his own team. They lost Cam Robinson, left tackle, in week 2 last year, torn ACL.
Lee missed the whole year.
Marquise Lee missed the whole year. Left guard Andrew Norwell was lost to a season-ending injury in, I believe it was October, early November, and center Brandon Linder was hurt at the same time. Those are the 3 best offensive linemen. They were left with Jeremy Parnell. And they bring in Eric Flowers to play left tackle for a few weeks last year. I mean, if those guys can just stay healthy and Fournette can get the ball in his hands, I think this team can be a lot better.
I'm still wondering if Leonard Fournette is actually good at football.
Right, yeah. Still up for debate.
I would say the Jags basically had the offseason this offseason that they probably should have had offseason. It's like there wasn't a franchise-changing offseason, but they made the little changes that they probably should have made last year.
Yeah, I mean, just
and it's a question now: is it too little, too late?
Sure, but $25 million or whatever it is per year to a quarterback should be a franchise-changing decision. Yeah, well, but that's the market we're in 2019.
And one of the rumors was they had to give him all that. They were negotiating against themselves, so they gave him the money so he wouldn't get questioned in the locker room.
Locker room respect.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.